Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. We can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It's a Tuesday. Hey, I think I got everything right. There's nothing for me to fix. Let's go into the charts. Oh, man. So yesterday, interesting day. Treasuries pushing quite a bit lower and, pushing in towards yearly lows. I thought that the music stopped there for a second. We're okay. Pushing into yearly lows. And here overnight, after a brief push even lower, we are coming back. I'm going to come back out here really briefly, look at the 6J because it's been really important as of late. And here you can see the same thing right there. They were just getting creamed yesterday, and in the overnight session, there has been some support over here, okay? Coming into the equities rallying overnight. You're getting another one of these like buy the dip sort of things yesterday. Oil giving up some of its gains. There is some you know what, there's oil headlines. I don't always remember everything that's going on in oil, but there's headlines about, suggesting that more supply could come online. Silver and gold kind of coming back pretty meaningfully, and copper also doing okay here. I haven't heard anything out of China when I was doing my reading this morning, but then you have Bitcoin still kind of skidding along the bottom, and the dollar just right above 103 like it's been for a couple of days now. So, you know what? I want to change this chart real quick, because when I come into it like that, I only have like 5 days. Let's double that. I think that this should be able to handle 10 days. There you go. Okay, so where does that put us today? Well, so today, let's see here. Fed Barkins already spoke. We have existing home sales, and Richmond Fed Composite Index is probably the biggest piece of news that we have today. They're expecting -10. So that's basically where we're at. Are they going to continue this like selling that we had yesterday? Well, I just want to note over here real quick that I'm seeing some pretty strange stuff over in the treasuries. There's actually been 10,000 net selling within this location, and that has been since my chart has been open. So like, that's real. So some support for a large meta order sell so far, but price not actually going down. So that's kind of odd. That's kind of odd. Somebody posted a video for us to watch later. The problem with tech media: ego, dogmatism, and cult of personality. No, I don't think that that's it. Can I say this is something I find so weird, and it's kind of like a larger social media thing, so why not talk about it a little bit? There was this piece of drama, catch you back up, big drama over Linus Tech Tips, because a video was made about some inaccuracies and people were upset over the review of a particular product that they felt was unfair. And so Linus Tech Tips, eventually they put together a video and gave their side of the story and admitted where they were wrong and said sorry, and everybody was like, well, that's not good enough. They were bothered that there was like, that the video had monetization on it and things like this. So when I look at it, I'm like, well, man, you can't make people happy. You just can't. When you're in that situation, it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to be pissed at you unless there's blood, right? Because that's really what the mob wants is blood. That's why you throw somebody under the bus, right? Well, all of these people are coming out and saying, well, the problem is that Linus is a douche, that he is a narcissist or an egomaniac or something like that. And I think that's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Linus is probably like one of the least narcissistic people I've seen on social media, actually. Like that's the funny part about it. And so why is it all of these people are projecting this onto these influencers now? I mean, there are definitely a lot of influencers that are narcissistic. So is it just that they're like following the pattern, like, well, somebody else online said this and that's kind of the pattern, and so then they say it too? Right? Are they projecting? Like, where does this come from? I think it's projection, because I had this thing yesterday on the subreddit, on the day trading subreddit. They want to make this thing where you sign up for this service and it verifies your trading. And I said, well, this isn't a very good idea, because what you're doing is you're putting a stamp of approval on people that really aren't actually profitable traders. They're going to say, oh yeah, I've been making money over the past 6 months or a year, but the strategy they're actually trading is unprofitable. So it just directs people towards the riskiest trades, essentially. And I get these responses back like, oh well, of course you're an influencer, you don't like it. Like, to me, it doesn't really matter. I think they want the rule to be that if you're a quote influencer, that to post your content that you have to be using that service. Not relevant to me because my broker isn't supported by them anyways. I think that even if I was supported, I don't think I would use it, because like, if you don't know what the product is you. And I don't see how a service like that is making money, So I'm convinced that it's so that they can, data mine your trades. And I don't want to give them that. But I don't post content on the subreddit anymore anyways. It was pointless. Nobody looked at it. Well, I mean, I guess people looked at it, but like the number of clicks that you got was pretty trivial. And people just did not like quality content. People only liked it if you came in and you said, oh, I'm so rich, I'm going to make you rich too, right? So I don't particularly care about that. But it's like everybody's projecting this thing of what they think about social media influencers in general on me. And I find it so it's so exhausting. So exhausting. And now I'm seeing it over there online. So now, not only do we have a social media system with perverse incentives that is kind of leading the whole industry down paths that I think are generally negative for the viewer, but now the few people that are good are being punished along with it. That's how I'm feeling this morning about that. But I'll watch that video anyways. Later. Okay, Barkin is still speaking. I'm not saying anything too significant yet, but he is still speaking. What's this one? Financial Times. Crypto has amplified financial risks in emerging markets. Central banks warn. I tell you what. This right here is still like just within the range. but it sure looks more like a downturn than an upturn when you're seeing how they're reacting down there at the bottom. Am I wrong? Yep, there you go. Fed's barking. Credit card debt is now basically on the trend line from before the pandemic. Thank you. Too bad nobody on TikTok will listen to you barking. We know the reality. Man, I feel like I am like just set up to rant about things all day. So there's this influencer on TikTok and he's been making like financial conspiracy theory type of content. So like one day he makes this video that's like the CPI is a fake measure. Here's what they're doing is they're saying here's this food. That piece of food isn't available anymore, so we're going to substitute it. And then they substitute it for something more, not as nice, and say, that there was, that it was the same thing. And then that means that the indicator understates inflation. Okay, so he makes this video. There's no proof of that. But I digress. The next day, he makes this video that is like, does the Federal Reserve want us to go into a recession? Because it sure seems like, based on what they're doing, that they want to have a recession. So on one hand, you're complaining that interest rates are too high. On one side, you're complaining that inflation is too high, which would mean we increase interest rates. And then on the other hand, you're saying, well, the Federal Reserve doesn't need to be increasing interest rates. Like, come on. Do these people think these things out? And I'm just, this morning, I don't know why, but that kind of popped up into my head. And this was one of those same people that were saying like, oh, credit card usage is so high. No, it's not. It's on trend with before the pandemic. Interesting. Morgan Stanley risk off will persist for at least a few more weeks and possibly into the fall/winter if fundamentals deteriorate. We look to the 200-day moving average as minimum downside. Who cares? But the fact that they're saying risk off, I'm a little bit frustrated by that one because it makes me think that they're just basing it off of their chart read. But the kind of like the balance of flows kind of suggest that you could get a face ripping long again. That things are kind of positioned for the flows to screw over the hedge funds again. Then we got these guys saying otherwise. It seems to me like there's quite a bit more disagreement in the market about what the next stage of things is than there has been earlier in the year. By the way, what price are we talking? What prices are we talking about here? 4,325. So it's about where we were trading yesterday. So thinking about what happened yesterday, we had a sell. They were pushing into new lows and all that fun stuff, right? But I would say ultimately that move was kind of a dud. Like they didn't turn into like the big downside, and there was actually like insane crazy absorption against it. So now here today we're doing the same thing. It's like the same prices, seeing some downside action. Looks like the 6J is on the downside. Right? So does it? I'm kind of wondering it's gonna do the same thing. Like it's gonna fizzle out after running really long. So I'm already kind of late on the draw here if I were to go along with this. But there is definitely a meta order short coming through here. So probably should have just come in and gone short right from the get-go, huh? Uh-oh, did Joe Biden finally visit Hawaii? Jill and I have a little sense of what it's like to lose a home. And then tells the story of when lightning hit his house in 2004. I almost lost my 67 Corvette and my... I don't think that that's the best story to be telling in that situation. They're holding that 03 half okay, but... especially since the fire caused by the lightning strike was relegated to the kitchen and a small... Was that... was a small one? Oh, I thought for a second I thought you were referring to the Hawaiian fire. I was like, no, wasn't it like an exposed line or something? Dude, I did a lot more reading about that yesterday, and my conclusion is that the government agencies don't have an effing clue what's going on over there. I was talking about it with my wife, and she's like, she didn't know anything about it. It's like, you're not seeing like stories up the wazoo about that on Facebook and stuff? No, she hadn't seen anything. Yeah, but Biden's stories are always BS. Biden basically makes stuff up to try and connect with people, and it always falls flat and blows up in his face, and I don't get why he continues to do it. He can't help it. Facebook suppresses all kinds of news bigly, seemingly without bias. Well, I think that in this case, it's because I don't think that they really know what's going on. Like I don't think that the like what would we say, the emergency response agencies really have a full picture of what's going on over there, because you're talking about like a small community of about 13,000 residents out in Hawaii. You know, it's kind of hard for them to get to. They don't really know a whole lot about what's going on over there, right? So I because they don't know what's going on, and basically at this point the media gets all of its information from the state, and so you're not seeing as much reporting on it, like hard reporting on it, because nobody really knows or understands what's going on. So like the thing with the kids, so I guess the thing at issue is that people want to know how many kids died, and they don't know. They have no clue. They have no clue. In fact, so the reason the fire happened apparently was that there was a power line that was essentially exposed, and it had actually been flagged in the past as a fire hazard, and nobody ever did anything about it. And so the whole disaster was preventable, I guess you could say, if everybody had been doing their job. So the thing that I kind of see going on over there is like people are getting paid just to have the job, and they're not actually doing anything, you know? But it sure seems like a natural disaster that's just like just falls perfectly for, you know, like it just landed perfectly in the blind spot, you know? So perfectly in the blind spot, and then on top of all of that, you have all of these agencies where the people weren't actually doing anything, you know, where people had become complacent, and now that something's going on, it's just like they're just failing and flopping all over the place, because there's not actual like you know, like you don't have to be good at your job to have the job, because nothing ever happens. You know what I mean? News Squawk noting that the 2-year yield is higher on the day now, and it does seem that it is the shorter end of the curve that has been leading us higher in rates. we're still kind of, so we did tick a slight new low there, but overall, this does kind of look like something that could continue to sell, but we have formed maybe a little bit of a hole. They don't seem like too excited to push it. It really looks to me like the 6J is kind of pushing people again. So that might make it a little bit difficult for us to be able to time and so forth. Our utility companies here in Florida do a pleasantly surprising amount of work preventing stuff like that. One of, so here's something that's been on my mind lately. So one of the we talked yesterday about anti-fragility, right? One of the big things that Nassim Taleb posits is that we need systems that are anti-fragile, systems that actually, like the best trades are ones that do the best when everything's going crazy, basically, in his view. And one of the principles that he kind of uses and that a lot of people have latched onto that I kind of think is adjacent to that is having skin in the game, right? That the people that are making decisions need to have something at stake, and that's what drives performance, I guess you could say, right? And because really, like, if you're Uzi is always concerned about people in the ivory tower making the decisions, right? You're making decisions about people in situations that you have no vested interest in, right? Which certainly happens a lot in our society, right? And so the question is, if we need to have that situation, how do you align performance and incentives along with what the people need and everything else, right? And when I look at a situation like this, I really don't see how you do it. It seems to me that there are some situations where creating that kind of system is just not possible. And really what you have to do is you have to rely on people that just value excellence without the reward, And I don't know how I don't think that's going to work, because I feel like that the people, at least in today's society, the people that excellence is one of their top values, it's like maybe 1 in 20. It's maybe like 1 in 20 people. People in ivory towers have opinions about policies that won't affect them and are contrary to the best interests of said people. Well, right. The people in the ivory tower think that it's what's best for the people, but that's not always necessarily the case. Sure. But I think that that's a slightly even more complicated thing, because I don't think it's always so simple to determine like what is best for people, right? I think this is this bigger problem at hand here. Like when you think about conservatism versus progressivism, right? Is progressives are always trying to push the society forward, and they believe that government is the most effective way to try and push the society forward. The issue is, what is forward? Are the things that they are, concerned about really actually like beneficial, right? And they might think it's beneficial, and then the people that it's affecting, they might disagree. And, I don't think that it's always one way or the other. I don't think it's always that the people, on the ground know best, okay? If I gave monetary policy, to the vote of, your average Midwesterner, I think we would be in big trouble, right? It's like we're talking about really complicated problems where the performance is not clear until you look at a really, really wide time frame that we as humans are not really capable of seeing. Well, people had the propensity to support crushing all the ants over COVID, for example. Okay, so this is an interesting thing as well, because I was definitely very upset when it would turn into like locking things down. Yeah, like, no, you know what? I don't think it's that it's like okay, so why did that happen? Right? Why did that happen? I think that happened because the people that tend to be in positions of power want power specifically. And so they always trend towards the decision that gives them the most power. And if you are locking people down and closing businesses and putting people out of work, that gives you a lot of power. And that feels really good to that person that's like the power hungry monster. That's how you get these things where it's... Sorry, the stream went down and came back very, very briefly. No, I don't think that's... So let's try and like pull it back to things that I think we could definitely agree. Okay. There were politicians that seemed to have absolutely no concern for all of the small businesses and so forth that got put out of business because of these policies. Absolutely. Right. And it was a power trip sort of a thing. So that's why it was like, you know, they would implement these policies and then the politicians themselves didn't follow them and were even like joking about it. Right? You remember those unsavory text messages from people in the UK basically joking about it? Like in Congress, they're saying, oh, we need to shut everything down. And then in the meantime, they're treating it like it's no big deal. You remember those texts that leaked? Man, that was only like a 1-day thing. And then it got memory holds. That's so sad. But why does that happen? I think it's because the people that tend to be in places of power in government are primarily interested in power. And so they always err on the side of giving themselves more power, right? When the reality was that all we had to do was give people the information about what is best for their health and then allow them to make good decisions. Because when you look at Sweden had very great outcomes on this, and they didn't have to use any kind of force, right? Like, people shut down on their own. Yes, and then they basically it was a mass hysteria, right? Well, they're looking to start this BS all over again. Okay, so I've seen this as well. I mean, I knew that this is where the conversation was going, right? But I take issue at saying like people like you, and then you're not saying me specifically, but you're saying all the people that have 6 figures and they have no concern for this. I don't think that that's the case. I think that it's 2 groups of people that are doing this. I think it's 2 groups of people that are doing this. One, it's these power hungry monsters, and 2, the people that are stuck in a constant mass hysteria loop that fall for every tiny stupid little thing that these power hungry monsters say. And I believe that those two categories of people cross all lines of economics and class and race and so forth, right? There was people from every class, every economic class stuck in the mass hysteria. Now, are they trying to do it again? Well, so there is another variant out, and there has been like the people that make the vaccines have kind of been pushing this, like, it protects you against this, and this is the thing that we're concerned about, and so forth. I haven't seen anything specifically that makes me think that, like, the fix is in. Does that make sense? Like, when a political strategy has been decided upon, you can see it very clearly, and I haven't seen that happen yet. So hit up the prednisone. Oh, really? He is prednisone? Yeah, that would do it. So one of the things that I noticed about COVID is that the like post-COVID is definitely a thing. and one of the ways that to kind of, I don't think that this really gets you away from like the long-term consequences of it, but something that does kind of help you bounce out of it is prednisone, yes. Because when I get the post-viral cough where you're still coughing and doing all of this, your system is just like super agitated afterwards, and it keeps doing that for weeks, and then they give you the prednisone and you're fine. You take prednisone for a week and then you're fine. But you're right, it was a mass hysteria. No question about it. It turned into a mass hysteria. I mean, when I got COVID, I only had it for like 2 days. Like I started to feel it on Friday, and I was already better by Monday for work. Of course, I worked from home, so I didn't have to. Okay, so I probably should have taken a trade in that range. I could have made $10. I've already missed that. I'm not too anxious about taking it from the 000 here. So we need to look. What was yesterday's low? Oh, okay. Yesterday's low was 31. Overnight low was 28. Because you couldn't smell or taste. But no, like the whole thing is that, like, in the beginning, I think that there was reason for concern. Like when you look at the way that Italy was hit, for instance, and the toll that it took on their healthcare system, you know, I don't know if, like, what was it, the flatten the curve or whatever the deal. I don't know if that strategy was actually the best strategy. I'm only going to say that it was a reasonable strategy. Okay. But what happened was that they did the flatten the curve, and then these nutsodes wanted to just keep it forever. And so it was only supposed to be like a close for a week to flatten the curve, and then these retards turned it into like a year of closures. And policies that I really don't believe are supported by the data. Right? Like there's definitely data. There was definitely some things where, like, I think that there was reasons to have concern, but it did not justify the degree of closure that we saw in some parts of the country, especially in places like Michigan and stuff, where it was just like insane, you know? we flattened the curve across and left. Well, by that point, it was already everywhere. I don't know if shutting down global travel would necessary, but you know, they had this thing where you everybody had to be tested, right? So I don't know. That goes back to this. You know, it was just all of those little places where it's like, okay, so you have this general policy that's like, okay, we know that there's a problem and we need to do this thing, okay, but then that gets applied everywhere as like a blanket statement, and nobody's smart enough to come in and say, okay, well, but like on an airplane where they have these really strong filters and everything, it's not really a concern, right? But once it got out of China, I don't know if shutting down world travel would have done a whole lot. But I mean, so here again is where it's like, okay, so the thing that you want to talk about, so let's shift it a little bit so I can put it into somewhere where I think that everybody would probably agree, right? Do you see this news story yesterday about that 40 cities have signed this quote-unquote treaty, which I don't think that the whole thing is like even legal or whatever, but they signed it, okay? A World Economic Forum document that basically said by 2030 you won't that people in the city won't be allowed to eat meat, they won't be allowed to eat dairy, they won't be allowed to have their own personal transportation. What was the other one? It was just like nutso level of like for climate change. It was like crazy level of policy restricting people's personal freedoms in the name of climate change. Holy crap. I can only imagine if we get to 2030 and these people are actually like serious about this, okay? Because nobody's gonna stay in that city. You know it. I know it. Nobody's gonna stay in that city if they actually did that. I'm pretty sure that this is one of those things where it's like, oh yes, we're doing the correct thing, and yet, but nobody actually has real serious intentions of following through on it. It's kind of like when you know, kind of make general plans with friends and then it never happens, sort of a thing, you know? People are just saying what they think is the cordial thing in the moment, and they don't really actually have serious intentions of truly following through on it. That one was crazy. I'm still like, I don't know how real the story is, like how much of it can actually be believed, because the people, of course, the people that are posting it are kind of the people that I don't necessarily trust for news. But it does appear that these cities did sign this thing. So like, jeez. Oh, you hadn't heard about that one? Yeah, it's it's out there. I think I would have to dig a little bit to find you the document, though. But I'm pretty sure that if you go on the Donald and you just scroll down the page far enough, you find it. Well, stuff's going to get really stupid if Joe Biden wins, and then it's Joe Biden stuff from 2024 to 2028. Could be. I think, and listen, I'm not going to try and make it's always, I mean, in most all likelihood, you're probably right. But it's never a good idea to make such a confident prediction about the election that far out. So it's always comes back and bites you to be that confident about something. Just like we were so confident that, you know, in December of 2019 2019 that Donald Trump was going to win the election in 2020, right? So, do you think Trump can manage to be candidate to the president? Well, so it sounds like that he is probably going to win the Republican nomination. This whole DeSantis thing is, I think, so fucking weird, to be honest with you. Okay, so like, if you go on, let's say like the r/conservative subreddit, for instance, and you look at what people are doing, and seeing the discussion about the debate and about DeSantis and so on and so forth and how that's going, okay, and what are people saying about DeSantis? And they're like, well, DeSantis, doesn't need any help in destroying his campaign. He's run such an awful campaign, yada, 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 all of these things. Okay. What was it that he did? What was it that he did or said or whatever that he lost you? Right? Well, and they're all just saying, well, it's because of how he's run the campaign. No, guys. You are not people that are sitting refreshing the Politico blog all day, trying to see the latest information about what Ron DeSantis has said on the campaign trail. None of you were doing that. So this is all like a concocted media narrative. The media is telling people that Ron DeSantis has run his campaign poorly, and then the polling follows what the media has said. Because I don't think that any of these people actually know anything about what Ron DeSantis has been doing on his campaign. Right? Here's what I think is going on. I think that the media is desperate for Donald Trump to be the nominee, and they're doing everything that they can to try and influence the Republican primary so that it goes that way. His team, like what? What specifically did they do on Twitter? That was, I'm not going to vote for this guy. because like here's the bigger thing. I always said, the place where, it really looks like DeSantis is a strong contender for the nomination right now, but I wouldn't make any strong conclusions until what? You've seen him on the debate stage, right? Because my understanding or my recollection from Ron DeSantis was arguing Charlie Crist or whoever it was for the governor's race in Florida, was that he was not particularly strong on the debate stage. So, like, it could be the case that he gets up on the debate stage and just absolutely bombs. That's where I would have expected Ron DeSantis to. And instead, they're trying to say that it's already over before the first debate. When nobody is even paying attention and they're saying it's over, I'm sorry. That's media BS. That is a media trying to make a decision for you. Because nobody's even paying attention. You're saying it's over. Nobody's even paying attention. Nobody even knows what's going on. Right? And the polling that you're seeing, the only reason you're seeing the polling that you are is because of name recognition on Donald Trump. That's it. They went with a strategy and botched it bigly. And I don't know. So I think that the thing that they botched was that they didn't really have a very strong strategy. Like, what is Ron DeSantis's campaign theme? I don't know what it is. The video, I don't think I've seen that one. DeSantis is the LGBT Terminator. Okay, so that's another one that I also find very perplexing. Is I was told that one of the things that Ron DeSantis was doing that everybody supported and was, and kind of elevated him to his stardom in the GOP was pushing back against woke stupidity. Like, that's really, like, it was pushing back against wokeness and particularly on the transgender issue that really, I feel, got Ron DeSantis to where he is. And then when people are talking about the demise of DeSantis's campaign, it's like people aren't in on this anti-LGBT stuff. I'm like, okay. That seems kind of contradictory to me. You think that the video made it seem like he hates all of them is good? I guess I should go and find that video. Maybe I have seen that video. I just forgot about it. Oh, okay. So I should just note Nick Turmero's tweeting something kind of important here, although it's not something I think is going to move the markets. But just they're talking about what Powell might say on Friday. And one of the big arguments right now is that a lot of economists are saying that R star, which is like the neutral interest rate, has increased. And, that maybe Powell would say something about it on Friday. And Nick Timmeros is saying no. So here's what his tweet. Two things can be true. Lots of folks, puzzled by recession calls faltering, are wondering if R star has shifted up. In other words, interest rates are not actually sufficiently restrictive because the neutral interest rate is higher than people thought. And ergo, the interest rates need to go a little bit higher in order to stem inflation and get us back to the 2% target. Okay. 2, Powell, long skeptical of spurious precision of these estimates, doesn't have reason to opine on it Friday. I think that's true because he has consistently, he's said this about the neutral rate of unemployment. He's said this about the neutral rate of interest rates and a bunch of these other things where it's like, these are these measures that it's not something that you can necessarily like directly point to or measure, but can be important to policy. And he's kind of said, well, since we can't really see them for sure in the real time, we can't really put too much stock in them. Which I think is the right call. But anyways, so that's the discussion about Powell's speech on Friday. Well, if they deleted the video, then that definitely suggests that it was a bad call. But I still have a very hard time seeing that as being like, the sorts of things that has ruined his campaign. Okay, like if it was a month before the Iowa caucuses, and he put a video out like that and then had to pull it, when everybody was outraged about it and it was causing his numbers to go down, then I would be like, okay, yeah, like Ron DeSantis screwed up, right? But like during the summer when nobody's paying attention and you're telling me that that's why Ron DeSantis's support has collapsed, I'm just not buying it. Not saying that his campaign was run well, but I'm just saying that, like, okay, there have been so many GOP candidates in the past that I've seen where their campaign in the summer was absolutely effing terrible, right? And then, but it doesn't matter because, like, honestly, like anything that happens before Labor Day is just practice. Is kind of how I feel about it. Anything that happens before Labor Day is just practice. And now all of a sudden they're saying that, oh, actually everybody has been paying attention and they've already decided that they don't like DeSantis and so it's going to be Trump. That really sounds to me like media is trying to make up your minds for you. But we'll see. It may be after, when we get back here on Thursday after that first debate, maybe then it will be cleared the way that it's going to be, right? Like, if they have the debate, nothing interesting happens in the debate, all of the candidates looks terrible, and people are more interested in watching Donald Trump's pre-recorded interview with Tucker Carlson, and then I think that we could safely say that, yeah, nobody stands a chance against Donald Trump. Now, I wouldn't count him out on the general election. I kind of feel like he probably shouldn't win against Joe Biden, but there's lots of things that could happen that could make it. This whole thing is I really think the left is playing with fire because they've kind of come into this decision that it has to be Donald Trump because that's the only guy that Joe Biden can beat. And I'm kind of like, or maybe Joe Biden is just such an awful candidate that dog catcher could win. Like, let's see here. Nick Timrell saying something else here. How come my freaking TweetDeck is not giving me the... Last year, Jackson Hole was about the lessons of Volcker, but for the second part of the Fed's inflation fight, some former Fed officials say Greenspan might offer the template. The debate is slowly moving from how high to how long. Joe Biden is such an awful candidate. He got more votes than any... Well, he got more votes than any candidate in American history because they made significant changes to the voting laws that enabled that enabled better turnout, essentially. Will that continue? I think that most of those are still in place, so I think you would still continue to see pretty high turnout, but that turnout thing doesn't only benefit Democrats. I'd say it gives a slight edge to Democrats, but so a really terrible Democrat president could still lose, right? That's the thing, is that almost any Republican could beat him. Like, oh, excuse me. The GOP has got some real problems, though, so. Okay, so how has this been going? When we had that fall, that was from 35 to like 45. We're kind of, oh, now that's interesting. So they're in this spot where it seems realistic that if I put a fill down at 433, that it might actually get filled. But I don't know, we'd have to be back up here, but that's just looking at it. It certainly appears to me that after they made that little crushing fall that took us to evens, that the meta order evaporated, like there wasn't pushing anymore. But I would say Joe Biden is the worst candidate since Jimmy Carter. In fact, I would say he's the worst candidate than Jimmy Carter. Like, it's really like, that's the thing that's so that always like throws me for a loop, is when I start going down through it and I'm like, yo, he is like, without question, in almost every way worse than Jimmy Carter. And Jimmy Carter's always been the whipping boy for like bad presidents and bad presidential candidates. Okay, now it looks like TweetDeck is updating correctly for me. PM me about fun. Who is this guy? I guess I'll try messaging him after the stream. That's weird. Somebody on Twitter tweeted to me, PM me about fund. And I'm like, okay. Well, we were talking about funds yesterday. I was like, it seems to me like the next thing is you got to go and manage the money. Right? Want to do it. I don't think I'm ready to do it today. But that's the path that I'm on. Let's see here. Live Monitor says another poker card gets flipped ahead of Jay Powell at Jackson Hole. Dudley out on Bloomberg today talking regime shift, higher for longer. It is. Is that really what's going on right now, though? I don't really feel like that the comments that I heard over the news squawk and the action that I've seen over here in the treasuries is really in line with that. Although perhaps one could say that that was already, or at least should have already been, the assumption about what the policy was, or sorry, the expectation, not the assumption, that should have already been the expectation. Okay, Nick Timrose, key to this debate, at what point could the Fed take a more patient or opportunistic approach to the last mile of the inflation fight? They've got to get the core inflation down below 3% before you start feeling really good about this, said Charlie Evans. Let me read the full quote from Charlie Evans. They've got to get core inflation down below 3% before you start feeling really good about this, said Evans. Underlying or core inflation, which strips out volatile food and energy prices, looks headed towards 3.5% by early next year. Inflation continuing to run above 3% could require the Fed to keep raising rates. Once inflation falls below that level, the case for the Fed to consider rate cuts would heat up. I've been at the 2-point-something camp. It's important that it starts with a 2, said Clarida. That sounds arbitrary, but some things in life are arbitrary. I love it. So they could be pushing on central bank hawkishness. They're touching those lows again, despite, they've been quite a bit of back and forth here at evens. 20,000 contracts. It's not as high as some of the levels that we saw yesterday. I would say that overall the market is a little bit quieter than yesterday, even though we're getting some good downtrend here. Just think about it. One man got killed after doing crimes and the world went crazy for it, but they never revolted against the ATF after it killed a wife, a kid, a dog, because he had guns in his home. That was kind of felt like a kind of an out of nowhere comment. I'm pretty sure that these recent killings by the FBI, there was actually 3 of them, as my understanding, are probably going to get what is the word where like you go to court and like you argue about it? Except for that, I don't think that it's going to go to court, but Still feel a little bit nervous about this area. Good morning, Walter. What do you mean by which data service do you use? So if you're talking about how do I get my like my economic news, I use Financial Juice for my news squawk, and they give me that information. Oh, what? Okay, you're talking my market data. Yes, I use Rhythmic. I use Rhythmic because I like that this allows me to send my data to both NinjaTrader and Jigsaw at the same time. And that I get all of the level 2 levels. So, like, it's kind of hinting that if I got 434, that wouldn't be a bad spot, but, like... It's being a little shifty around in here now. It's kind of doing this, you know, tricksy stuff that I hate. Oh, we're going up. Buddish, 3 ticks down. The 2s are getting hammered. Maybe I should. You know, I've kind of been wondering, hey... okay. I kind of feel like that we should have the 2-year up, you know? I don't really want to make a DOM space for it, though. Maybe I could add... Maybe I should just add, like, one of these, like a summary tape. Let's do a summary tape. ZT, 2-year note futures. Francesca, long time no see. That's only been like a week or two, hasn't it? Oops. Over here, I'm using like 14-point font, aren't I? 16. Interesting. News Squawk is just saying that Nvidia is reaching new highs ahead of their earnings tomorrow. That's very, very interesting. So I'm going to put that over here for now. And put it over here so we can see this. Sorry, you can't see it. You're not allowed to see it. So in the 10-year, I'd say it's a little bit iffy. But on the shorter end of the curve, it's definitely to the downside, right? And I am noting now that I have this up that the 2-year is seeing a little bit more back and forth than would be normal. Than is normal, let's say. Okay, so another story of interest to me. In Japan, they are going to be releasing the cleaned water from the Fukushima water plant. So apparently there is like deuterium in the water that they can't completely filter out. So they're going to be putting it out there, and this guy says who is the former head propagandist in China says, according to a model made by Tsinghua University, nuclear contaminated wastewater discharged by Japan will pollute China and the US in 3 years and pollute the whole world in 10 years. Anyone want to eat radioactive salmon? Well, that's ridiculous because the amount of radioactivity that they're introducing into the system is trivial. But this is a story that seems to create a lot of passion and noise. It seems to me like the 30-year is not cooperating at the moment. Seeing the S&P 500 starting to trade on the downside here the first 5 minutes. We are coming into the time period where we kind of have to start thinking about this if we're going to try and do this, though. Nick Temeros has been tweeting a lot of stuff here. Opportunistic the upshot, if the bottom doesn't follow the economy, just where core inflation settles out, how far down does it fall? Could it be consequential? The difference between core inflation running around 2.8 versus 3.2 may matter considerably. Opportunistic disinflation under Greenspan was a strategy of aggressively resisting incipient increases in inflation once it reached a moderate but above target level, but not tightening further. Fed officials bristle at the idea that this is what they're envisioning. And he has another quote. Fed officials said discussions around such tactics are premature. It feels pretty early to get to that particular hypothetical where core inflation is still at 4%, not 3%, said Barkin. In June, Barkin penciled in lower rates near the end of 2024, assuming the economy had contracted for 2 quarters. It's hard to see how the Fed gets inflation back to its target without slower growth, he said. If we do end up in this hypothetical situation, I would distinguish between patience versus hope, he said. In other words, the Fed could entertain a more patient approach to bringing down inflation, only after seeing evidence activity is weakening. Others think the Fed is on track to bring down inflation over the next 2 years without significantly increasing unemployment. The path to a soft landing in recent months seems to have gotten wider, said Boston Fed President Susan Collins in a recent interview. Fed's current policy is deliberately and intentionally bringing inflation down and to float a strategy that entertains a longer period of time to arrive at 2%. Could be confusing and perhaps undermine the credibility of the central bank's policy, he said. There's 2 ticks down. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Sorry, you're right. It's not deuterium, it's tritium. By the way, they've been releasing tritium in the ocean for a long time. It's not really a problem either, since the ocean is so big and radiation is easily absorbed by the water, which is actually used as a neutron absorber inside nuclear reactors. So yes, it's mostly propaganda. Yes. Well, I mean, it's interesting because they can detect it. But you're right, it didn't affect you. Dude, was that like, it's gone? I really wanted 3, 4, 5. Okay, fine. Okay, so just remember that the overnight low is 28. Seeing that big order stack at 30 kind of made me be like, okay, it's either here or you're screwed and it's too late. So if this is going to keep running, this is the only spot you can take. And if it's not, then we just gotta bail. But I would say that these last few ticks down have meta order written all over them. Good morning, D. I can see that, yes, the 2-year is getting hammered. Equities getting crushed. Some icebergs in the treasuries. So far not scaring them too much, though. Treasury seemed pretty nonchalant about it. I think it's because I still think that the Japanese yen is a key driver here. Iceberg's still there. Cleared it. Decent offer. They're not aggressively eating 28.5 yet, though. Well, there was a little bit of volume just flew through there in the 5-year. Okay, clear at 28.5. Briefly. What makes you trade the ES? Well, I don't trade it these days, but, you know, for me to take a trade over there in the ES, I have to have some sort of a positioning setup that's really, really strong. Really strongly suggests that they're going to buy or sell that day. You're short the euro? Okay, so there was an iceberg. They went through it. There wasn't really super aggressive selling below that, and they have backed up 2 ticks. It still looks to me like they're more following a correlation and the treasuries are just kind of piling on to some extent. So I don't know if that's like a huge deal. I'm still kind of upset that I missed my original entry on all that. Okay. Comes back down. We're already up almost 3 basis points. I don't know, this definitely has the feel of like a big move to it to me, but it's not just straight going, is it? They're coming right there to the edge and they haven't yet gone for it. If it is one of those days, there's probably plenty more left in this. Like I would say 3.4 is not unrealistic. Come on. Okay, there's the low, overnight low. A little frustrated. I think that what I should have done is if I had gotten in at 4-3-4 and then I could have added when I did. And I could have gotten added like way earlier too. Oh man. 2 years definitely getting crushed here, man. I wouldn't be surprised to see the 2-year yield up at 5% before this is all said and done. Maybe not today. Although it's not that far. It's only like, what, 3 basis points away? That dollar looks like it's just keeping going. Oh. So I do not like what I just saw there in the micros. It looked like somebody puked off of that. I think I'm just going to take the $5. Because really, with the way that played out, 3.54 is not a great position, so. Oh, you contacted AMP and they approved your application. Good deal. I knew you'd find a way. Iceberg at 30. Hmm. Is it safe to assume that sometimes they lift a small amount to sell lots into the bid? I don't know what you mean by that. If you're trying to sell, all you can do is sell or not sell, right? So what you can do is kind of let the pressure off and let them come back up and then hope that a bunch of people start bidding because of that and then sell into those. Okay, so Richmond Fed is a pretty important data point that we're going to get here. So that's in 10 minutes. Five-year is looking a little more aggressive, so I am kind of seeing this counter trade. I think that I did the right thing bailing on that. Even though it hasn't really moved since then. Wow, did Vivek Ramaswamy really talk about invading Mexico as a theoretical in a book? I can't wait till tomorrow, guys. I'm telling you. Vivek is not as serious of a candidate as he seems, and I don't think that he's actually running to win. And if I'm right, that'll probably be on display tomorrow. So tomorrow probably makes or breaks Vivek. Got to keep reminding myself there's news, there's news, there's news. Tiesto Drifting Calvin remix. That's curious that he gave a remix to a drum and bass artist like that. Wow, Chicago school teacher arrested for threatening to shoot Donald Trump. She looks crazy. I'm gonna show you the picture. She looks crazy though. She's got, I will ruin your life, but it'll be so worth it out. So the 30-year is pushing there, and we are back up to, up 2 ticks if we were still on the position. I don't want to be in this before the news, though. Sure looks like they're making another push. I am like fidgeting so hard right now because I just like seeing them come back and turn down short here before the news is a little bit, that's an odd flow to see here. So where y'all's getting this mask mandates are coming back? I understand why people are concerned about it, but I have not seen anything yet to say that it's highly likely to happen. Only conservatives, gearing up to fight about it, but the not actual strong evidence that it's coming. Yeah, so the reason that it's become a discussion point is because there is a variant out there that they've been warning about. And the other day, I think it was Moderna said, oh, our vaccine protects, we've shown that our vaccine protects against this new variant as well. And everybody's like, well, how could you possibly have done that? We've only known about the variant for a few days, And so then everybody's like, oh, they want to do the shutdowns and everything. And it's not like Biden wouldn't push it and everything, but I just haven't seen that kind of like that go ahead that like they're going to do it, right? So people are concerned about it as a talking point, but there's not anything that has happened to suggest that it's coming. Where's that? So what's your source on that? Some volume on both sides here, 28, half 29. On FinViz? FinViz, what's that? It's a stock screener. So they're probably just, well, let's see here. I don't think that's actually what you think it is. Okay, so here's one. Politico, Biden's fall COVID vaccine rollout for the uninsured won't include pharmacies at first. The administration doesn't expect to finalize contracts with pharmacies distributing the vaccine to the uninsured until mid-October, weeks after the shot is made widely available. Biden administration's effort to provide free COVID-19 vaccines to the uninsured will not start at retail pharmacies until mid-October, weeks after the government plans to make an updated version of the shot available to the broader public. So if you're seeing something at usaspending.gov, it's probably related to that, right? Okay, here we go. Oh, I got the Richmond Fed Composite Index already. It was -7 versus an expected -10, so better than expected. Existing home sales less than expected. -2.2% versus an expected -0.24%. And existing home sales 4.07 versus 4.15. Okay, so the news seems to be nothing too interesting. Can you show me where colleges started the, I don't know that. There are places that have had the mask mandates, like they never went away, so I don't know if that's... Like I'm not seeing anything here that like convinces me that this is not just a confirmation bias sort of a thing. That you're concerned that it's going to happen, you think it's going to happen, in every tiny little thing that you have that says anything about that it's going to happen, it's going to stick out in your mind. But there's not the propensity of evidence or something that would be like direct cause and effect to suggest that they are. Okay, so they've fought over these prices a little bit. It did tick up. Interesting. That 31 note. Well, they got the like drop again, right? Yeah, I'm the same way. I want to sell it, but I'm not confident. Well, so when I look at the Japanese yen is still kind of heading up. So I'll tell you what, I will go short rates here, and that way it will go for you. I find this little spike in the Japanese yen here just a little bit suspicious, and that's why I'm starting to think maybe it's a long. And you see that they just moved 5 ticks quite easily in the micros. Just barely missed catching the edge there. Gonna reset these. Japanese yen is still ticking up. I don't know. Is that like? Let me show you here. Is that enough of an up bar to make me suspicious about central bank intervention again? I don't know. I mean, how often have we seen this like 145 sort of a thing? That means that if they were going to put, if it was a central bank intervention, I think that they would want to get it back past 145. So that means that you could see quite the wild reversal into Japanese yen if that's what was happening. And I really have no reason to know other than that, you know, they've defended at 145 before, and that last bar in the Japanese yen looks awfully big. But it's a little bit suspicious just because I don't think that there was really anything in that news to really strongly suggest to buy treasuries or anything like that, right? But I am seeing all three of the treasuries on the long side as well in cumulative delta over the last 5 minutes. Well, if that's what we are going to see, I would expect to see the dollar drop a good amount too. So that's another thing we can keep an eye on. Okay, there's the 6-day. They did pull back a little bit. I'm starting to go with it, yes. As I'm seeing the flow come through, I'm starting to be like, okay. Like those last 2 ticks in the treasury were pretty strong, weren't they? Now we get back to evens though. That's an area where you're likely to see a little bit of, you know, liquidity again, probably. A little bit of back and forth trade. So they love those round numbers. The treasuries all seem to be going together broadly. Some of those upticks looked really good, but I'm also seeing the 30-year is looking a little bit more aggressive than the others. So that's kind of curious. Hmm. Looks, for the moment, pretty neutral. That place where I would expect there to be a lot of liquidity, right? Well, that's a much better bid. 1,600. I don't think that offer's gonna pull. I think those offers want fills, but... almost. I'm watching this bid to see if the bid gets over the offer, but they didn't quite do it. Came really close. $1,703. I'm looking for like 1750. 18. There you go. Okay. Yeah, but now you start to see orders flip over. Uptick. Well, if they're able to make another tick or two, then this really starts to look like, okay, so like the higher end of the range from before the drop was 01. The absolute high was 02. So like this 01 to 02 area would be a place where they would, people might be a little flighty, but so far the uptrend has been looking pretty strong going up into that. So far, that flow is looking pretty good. And again, the flow seems to be much stronger in the 30-year than it is on the other end of the curve. So it's like actually like flattening, essentially. Now, I'm still feeling sensations of nervousness. So... I might want to jump on that, so I might just mute you guys for a bit. So let's first come in and turn on focus assist so you guys don't have to see that. If they start a bridge, then I'll jump over there and I'll be quiet, but we'll keep streaming this, okay? This is looking good, guys. Hmm. Okay, so they did come back a good amount, so that kind of has me thinking that they might try and build some volume out here in this area again before they might try pushing. Japanese yen is still kind of, I would say, like ascending triangle kind of a formation. It's actually a very curious and obvious, like almost too obvious of a chart pattern. Do you see it? I don't have my pen turned on. Yeah, it's the teeny tiny one over there. Do you see it? The almost too obvious ascending triangle. Well, but like, here's the thing: if you are the Japanese central bank, manipulating your currency to try and turn things around, like, wouldn't that be like a great setup to try and convince people to jump in, or at the very least to dissuade anybody from fighting you? So I think if it was me, I would be wanting to push this up with as little buying as I need as possible, you know? Like, I would want it to go up because the market makers are pulling and because people are puking their positions and all of the speculators are buying and everything. Okay, the Japanese yen just broke a little bit higher again. I should also point out that the buying through this has been pretty consistent. I'm detecting a lot of level 2 activity there now. Iceberg at 01. Kind of felt like defense there. Because it did tick through a few times and they ticked it back up and they did about 1,300 contracts to do it too. And the yields are looking a little sensitive here. like that 2 ticks down in the treasury corresponded to almost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess 3 to 6 is about what it should be, but. J kind of did like that breakout and then came back to the level again. That one doesn't feel too good. Oh, because my profits almost all. I was trying to maybe take one contract off at $20 profit, and it ticked off before I had the opportunity to put the order in there, and now it's almost completely retraced. So I took it in a pretty good spot, but because of the way that the yield curve is going and everything, it's not working very much in my favor. So I was kind of expecting that maybe there would be a pullback, you know, and that's why I was thinking about taking a contract off so that I wouldn't feel so nervous through the pullback and I would have a better opportunity to try and hold the other contract, but that's not working out. What I'm seeing the flows isn't enough to make me be like, the upside is all over or anything like that, but it's definitely not favorable. Yeah, well, it definitely feels like they ran out of demand at 01, above 01, right? Like the ticks were all really strong, but then the orders just disappeared. So I'm feeling a little... Because I feel like I caught a really great trade and then I missed the exit and then maybe it's over. It's awfully quiet back here at 31. I guess that could suggest that the pullback here is a post-meta order regime change and not necessarily a continuation of the downside pressure. Japanese yen is still just right where it was. Heard some clicks. I think that was an ES though. Yes, it was. I only see the big clicks earlier in the session in ZN, and I don't see them later in the session very often anymore. My market depth tape, you know, alerting me to large changes in the book. Okay, well after that, uptick, downtick, slightly more level 2 activity. Yeah, it is an interesting day because the way that it's playing out, right? Like it started out like big stuff is happening the other way, and now it's kind of like, actually, maybe it was nothing, right? So that's either really was nothing, or like there's still a big surprise coming for us, you know. Like I think it's either a really big one or it was nothing. I don't feel like that what we've seen today speaks very well for continued downside in the treasuries, though. It kind of feels to me like there are too many people short, and that there's just not the oomph for them to really continue pushing. Like you're going to have to wash a ton of people out to the other side before you could get another meaningful move lower. Now, the split side of that is they could just continue to move a little bit lower each day, and that can those can kind of be the worst ones, right? But not like what I'm seeing today. Feels a lot like speculation to me. Feels a lot like mostly speculation. So. Yeah, a little bit of a move lower each day and then eventually a capitulation. Exactly. No, guys, this is so bitterly disappointing for me. That's weird. Okay, there's the 14. I was like, I didn't see my order hit the market, but I did that time. So what should have been a $15 winner day ended up being a $15 loser day. And that one I just bailed because the Japanese yen did give it up. Yeah, you know, and the reason that one is so frustrating is because it wasn't a bad trade, was it? I actually did really amazing on that trade, catching the thing that was happening and being able to flip was I think really impressive, and there was like really good excursion, and it's just that the pullback was way too fast for me, and I felt so flat-footed on that. It was just no good. It really sucked. And then, you know, I waited there thinking, well, okay, this is the pullback. I think we could get it to come back the other way, and it just didn't. It just didn't, you know? So we'll have to see how this plays out. I feel like that the future is a lot more uncertain, though, and that I should probably... Like, I felt so nervous during most of that I'm kind of questioning a little bit my ability to, like, really try and do something here. Wow, the 30-year, like, flipped hard, though. What's going on here? What do you think? This is very odd behavior indeed. So I saw a really strong buy there in the 30-year, and it is looking like it is retracing and going lower now. Equities are still just pushing lower. I do see some fight in the tape. Do you know of any site where I can have it without delay? Well, not without paying. I mean, like, if you pay, then you can get it on TradingView. But because of the rules with the CME, you can't get live data from the CME without paying for it. Grayscale versus SEC court decision doesn't seem to be coming today. I need to get the nervousness out. I still feel it. Like I can feel it in my face and stuff. I don't know what it is about that one that made me so I mean, maybe it was just because 2 contracts, but no, I puked it. I puked it at -10. It's probably better this way, I guess, because if I had done what I wanted to do, I probably would have doubled down and then would have taken the profit, doubled down here, and been like extra long or whatever. Now I'm getting a little bit of liquidity hole kind of behavior. Bids and offers pulling. It's able to trade back and forth at 30.5 and 31 really freely. It's been stuck here for a good, like, 5 minutes now. I don't know, but the thing that I find interesting about me feeling nervous about that was that it wasn't like a conscious emotion. Like I could feel the physiological signs of it. Like you kind of get that feeling in your gut and your face kind of feels heavy and you feel shaky. You came across zero hedges of Wikipedia. Well, so here's the thing that you got to understand, okay? Zero Hedge has an agenda, okay? Their agenda is basically anti-globalism, and they've been that way from the very beginning. So they are always in favor of things like the gold standard and criticizing the central bank no matter what they do and all of these sorts of things, okay? So, like, they have an ideological bent that I don't think is really very helpful to a trader, but they're the only place that you can get that will post, like, the positioning and the professional analyst reports and, like, the stuff that's, like, really, truly useful to us. It's, like, the only place that you find it. So, I have a love-hate relationship with Zero Hedge, okay? Like, Zero Hedge blocked me on Twitter because I had a few too many highly liked comments on their Twitter, you know, pushing back against some of the things that they were saying that I felt were untrue. So, yeah, according to Zero Hedge, the bear market, yeah, they're always bearish. They're always bearish. Well, they're not always bearish. They're actually pretty good at, you know, saying, oh, there's going to be a short-term squeeze higher here and that sort of a thing. But sentiment-wise, they're never positive on the economy. It's always like, if we're going to go up, it's not because the economy is doing well, it's because of other reasons, right? Like, if you listened to Zero Hedge, you would have missed the entire 2010 to 2020 bull run, for instance. So, by the way, that thing in the 6J, you know, I said it seemed a little too obvious. It did like a fake breakout and then pushed down. It was doing this, and it actually, when I posted it, it was actually here, right? Did fake breakout and then got crushed to the downside. So, when I was suspicious about it, I didn't really have an inkling of which way it was going to go, but clearly I was right to be suspicious about it. Yeah, if it goes up, it's because it's rigged and short squeezes. Exactly. They totally played the influencer game thing too. Like what they do is they'll have like 3 or so narratives out there that they're pushing at any one given time, and then when one of those 3 narratives ends up being correct, then they'll be like, "Oh, look, see, we can predict that we're so good, you should follow us, etc., etc., etc." Right? And then they ignore the other 2 things that they said that were dead wrong. They totally do. They totally pull that one. But like I said, if you want to know what, that's the thing is, I don't read Zero Hedge for Zero Hedge. I read Zero Hedge for when they're reposting what Tony Pasquariello and you know, all of these top professional analysts are saying. That's the good stuff. Charlie McGilligot, the Nomura analysts. That's the good stuff. And usually these other stories that they post are just kind of nonsense. But I have a hard time these days, like, whether I'm reading a news story or I'm on TikTok, you know, I'll be sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is an interesting thing. Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. But then they'll say something that I just know is objectively false. Right? It's like, okay, I'm watching a video and then they say, you know, we're concerned about the economy because consumer credit is at an all-time high. Well, I know that when you look at consumer credit debt service as a percentage of income, it is on target with where it was before the pandemic, and that consumers actually have quite a bit of room to be able to take on more debt, and that the absolute amount of debt being at $1 trillion doesn't mean anything, right? And so immediately right there, if an influencer or whoever it is that's writing the story says that, immediately I can't take anything else that they say seriously, because I know that they believe something about the economic numbers that is just so objectively and blatantly false. That I know that they can't really be a true professional, right? Oh, I always wondered whether running lines at the bottom of the screen are they don't. Yes, they're donation messages. I haven't been running the script that updates that, so I don't think it includes the most recent donation messages, unfortunately. I suppose I could get rid of it. Or, you know what I should do is I should switch it to what I've got behind me, showing the most recent the top movers for the day, the top stock movers. Yeah. Because, I mean, the whole thing was, like, to reward people for making donations. I don't know if those of you guys that are making donations really care, because the way that it tends to work out is somebody will ask a question and like the donation is a reward for me answering their question. Say the KRE is not looking good again. Another thing that I can, that I have, geez, well, I don't know how I would do this. So, let me show you something. There we go. So one of the things that Financial Juice has that you can subscribe to is unusual activity. So the unusual activity one is an application. It's kind of looking at the moment that if I had not gotten out of my trade, that I would still be like right where I was. So. Oh, Jesus, is it going to make like that annoying sound all the time? So you get these sorts of things. So this is telling me, okay, I think there's some unusual trades going on in Tesla right now. Some unusual activity in NQ and ES, which doesn't surprise me because NQ and ES have been selling pretty hard. And I thought, well, I could show you guys that because, I'm sure that that's a tool that a couple of people would be interested in, something that Financial Juice offers. But I didn't really know how to integrate it into my workflow without it being like you would just watch it on mine and not want to get it. You know what I mean? So I just kind of forgot about it. Oh, man, is it going my way now? I would be at that 15 where I wanted to get off again. I don't know. I think it's a little bit too late for me to try and revenge trade it now. But I'm going to be awfully upset if if it really comes back in strong and we do get the reversal that I was looking for. Yeah, because it kind of is looking like it's going to do that. It's kind of looking like it's going to do that. Although it is moving a lot, yeah. I'd be up 10. I think I'm still kind of proud that my instincts on that were so sharp. Look at that. So 33 was $20, right? That was where I wanted to get out. You have some time. Could you go over risk on, risk off rotations? Are treasuries considered risk off? And in theory, should we see negative correlation between stocks and bonds, i.e. stocks? So normally you would, but in the environment where inflation is the primary concern, you don't see that, right? So in the environment where inflation is the primary concern, you end up seeing positive correlation between treasuries and equities. So best. I'm thinking I did the right thing. I don't think that I could have really have held that one. And like I said, I was awfully nervous, but it came through. I'd be up $30. And that just makes me want to chase it. But like, it's already, you don't want to, nah, you don't want to do that. Watch, this is where it's just going to keep going and keep going. And you're going to be like, whoa, we came all the way back to the low of the day and yada, yada, yada. It fights you, man. Okay, so in what sort of environment does the positive correlation between stocks and bonds break down and turn back negative? So I would think of it as like a normal environment is that stocks are doing well. And because stocks are doing well, we anticipate that the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates, but them raising interest rates, it's not enough to be like a huge deal or anything, and it's just a normal course of things, right? So what you should see is equities moving up and treasuries selling because interest rates are going to go up, right? That's like the normal situation. But if the concern is inflation, then what you get is the treasuries sell because of concerns about inflation, and interest rates rise, and then equities are like, oh no, this is very, very bad for our bottom line, and so equities sell as well, right? So the over the history of the S&P 500 and bonds for the last 100 years or whatever it is, right? You will see that the correlation is mostly inverse, that when stocks buy, treasuries sell, and vice versa. Okay. But when you look at the most recent history, like the last 10 years or so, it's much more mixed, because over the last 3 years, we've been getting this positive correlation, particularly when there's concerns about inflation. Like today, I think that the inflation thing is maybe partly a driver in the S&P 500 right now, right? On the flip side, something that you'll get is like they anticipate that the Federal Reserve is going to keep interest rates low to try and help the economy. And so then you buy the treasuries and you buy the equities and you just buy all of the things, right? So it's kind of like, what are they focused on? Are they focused on the Federal Reserve changing interest rates is going to affect the economy? Then it's a positive correlation. Whereas, are they concerned about is the primary thing driving things is the market, is the economy starting to do really well or really poorly? You know, because that's the best one is, you know, something bad happened. Something bad happened, and there was like a natural disaster, or there was a financial disaster, or whatever it is, and they're selling the equity indexes hard and the treasuries rally. That's the best trade. That's the one you make mondo money on. So yeah, it's not as, I wish it was as simple as just like, here's this correlation, you always follow it. You have to know what the financial condition, you have to know what the economic conditions are. I'm still trying to decide how mad I should be about my trade not working out and going after I got out. You know, I had been out for a long time before it moved, so. A much better trade would have been wait for it to pull back and gotten in there and then taken it. And then I would have made the $30 and not have had to deal with the drawdown. So basically, you need to pay attention, which is one of the main takeaways from the Who's on the Other Side PDF. Yes, that's great PDF. Right, because that PDF basically gets you down into, okay, but what actually does work in the trading? Because they really break it down. They're, you know, like if you have an edge, these are the only ways that you can get them. Well, when they made that move, they really did what I wanted, though. Like the volume in the 30-year in particular was like, woo. Did you link that video /PDF? Where did it come from? I don't know how to find it. was some money managing fund puts it out. It's a really good PDF. I'm pretty sure that it's linked / attached in the downloads section of Discord somewhere, but I would have to dig for it. Looks like this is coming back pretty quickly. So it's kind of like if I had not, you know, let's say that I had somehow held through all of that and did catch the winner. If I hadn't have taken the plus $30, I would be giving it all back up again. Not all of it, about half of it so far. Now, the thing is that if this is really intervention from the Japanese central bank, which I'm kind of starting to question now, because I feel like the way that this is played is not quite the same as it was when I was like really positive that the Bank of Japan was intervening, you know? If that's what was going on, I think that they would want to push this all the way to the daily high, because they would want to get the Japanese yen back below 145. So like, but the flows were all, well, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is that when I look at the flows, the reason I took the trade was because I thought that I saw signs of central bank intervention again. But it's possible that what we had there was just a short squeeze. The volumes and everything that I'm seeing so far are consistent with a short squeeze. For it to be for me to be positive that it was central bank intervention, I think I would need to see the treasuries up at the highs. Back to the open, for instance. What I see really looks like short covering. Everybody's short, and yeah, now if you message me on Discord, I could just message you the PDF, because I definitely know where it is on my machine. Oh, actually, you know what? That would help you find it. That would help you find it faster, because then we would know the name of that. I think it's like Blue something Capital or something. Let's see here. Documents. Trading, learning. Have way too much stuff in this main one. Here it is. Who's on the other side? There you go, I got it. Blue Mountain Capital. Who's on the other side? Blue Mountain Capital. PDF. Dun 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 dun. Maybe this Scrib DB? Sure. Can you actually read it without having to do this, though? Download now. Yeah, you have to sign in. Oh, no, that's the one. What about this one? Aha! Okay. You can download it through this link. I don't think it's that it's that amazing, but especially if you're new or you're not you're still kind of stuck in the technical analysis world, reading that I think is really insightful, because now you kind of see it enumerated. How does one actually have an edge over somebody else in the market? And once that becomes clear and you look at, okay, how am I developing one of those edges? And then all of a sudden it's clear. It's like, well, it's not, because me just knowing about some pattern is not really an edge. If I don't know what's causing, if there's some stylized behavior of the market that the pattern is taking advantage of, then that's another thing. But if I've just done a bunch of statistics, and it seems like historically that it's worked out this way, nah, not worth it. Okay, well, very frustrating day, very odd trade. Kind of felt like it was fighting me a little bit. Both of my trades, like the crazy thing is that the original trade that I took was definitely a bad one. And I got out of it pretty quickly, so I'm happy about that. But, yeah, I wish I had stayed in this. Woulda, coulda. It's not that much. I think that I'm so particular about how, I try and hold the risk and everything so tight that if it just doesn't play exactly the way that I want, then I get out, and then, you miss it. Sometimes you have to give it a leeway. And I have been struggling with this, like before. I was giving it a little bit too much leeway, and now I'm not giving it enough, But is what it is. I'll see you guys. Well, actually, we need to set a title first before we get going here. Rates, push, and reverse. 20-second. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay excellent.